You're going to Walt Disney World. Now, where do you stay?
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
Hey guys, my name is Lucas.
I'm Lisa.
And we're Maple Mickey, putting the magic back in your Disney vacation. Today we're talking Walt Disney World accommodations. Where do you stay? We did a previous video talking about Disneyland, but I'm not gonna lie, Walt Disney World, much more complicated. There's so much to talk about, so much going on. So we wanna, as always, not be prescriptive, but we want to give you a framework for decision making around where do you stay, where do you put your head down at Walt Disney World at night.
Well, there are a few factors to think about at Walt Disney World. Again, this is a massive park. It is the size of Manhattan. So unlike Disneyland, where you are surrounded by hotels, you have to have some things in the forefront of your mind if you are thinking through where you are going to stay at Walt Disney World. So let's start with off-site, because that is gonna be the cheapest by far for you if you are considering it for your Disney vacation.
So our first trip going to Walt Disney World, we stayed half off-site and half on-site. And so we stayed at a Sheraton. It was beautiful. The courtyard was beautiful. The amenities were like just great.
The room was spacious.
But
great.
it did come with some kind of added complexities.
Yeah. So again, it was beautiful, but it is far because you are staying off of that piece of property that's the size of Manhattan. So we were about a 20-minute walk to Disney Springs, and we needed to catch a bus every day to the parks. Now, unlike staying on site with Disney, there are not buses running every 20 to 30 minutes. Now, maybe you could find a hotel like that, but you're gonna have to search pretty hard. Staying at the Sheraton, there was one bus going every day to every park and one bus coming home every day from every park, which meant that we had to really kind of juggle the time every day, be very cognizant of not missing that bus. And there were days that that bus actually got us to the parks after they opened and had us leaving before they closed. We even missed fireworks one night because we needed to catch that bus so early. And so that is something to consider, that ease of transportation of staying on site is not there when you're staying off site. Could you do us a favor and hit that like button? If you haven't subscribed yet to our channel, we would love to have you along for this journey of putting magic back in your vacation.
But in terms of value, you are going to find cheaper ways to stay at Walt Disney World off-site than you are on-site for the most part.
Yeah, you will. And again, just like in Disneyland or anywhere, you can find hotels that have breakfast included or different things like that that also are some budget-friendly ways of traveling. Now, there are a few exceptions to the rule of, it is kind of tricky. There's not a lot of transportation, and that is Disney has had a few good neighbor partnerships with some specific hotels that will give you some of the benefits of staying on site, but you're not staying with Disney, so you can find some cheaper prices. So if you stay at one of the Disney World Swan, Disney World Dolphin, or the Disney World Swan Reserve hotels, they are not owned by Disney, but you will get all of the perks and benefits of a deluxe resort stay. And we will go through what all those are in a moment. Also, the Good Neighbor hotels that are at Disney Springs have an internal bus, a Disney Springs bus that will bring you to and from, and they get some of the perks of a Disney resort hotel. Not all of them, like the Swan and Dolphin would, but they get some. And so if you are looking for offsite, that is maybe a good starting point to look at. Now, again, because that bus transportation can be so tricky, we do want you to know what you're gonna have to look for if you decide that, you know what, I don't wanna leave so early, I'm gonna take an Uber. And so you're gonna probably be looking at $15 to $30, just depending on how far your resort or hotel is away from Disney property.
Yeah, so add that in. But speaking of away and off property, let's also talk vacation homes. This is the Florida state. This is the snowbirds. This is houses that are empty for 6 months of the year kind of thing. And there's lots of opportunity to do that. But what are some considerations when staying off-site, going through a Vrbo or a Airbnb?
Yeah, so again, there is so many. You can get like a condo, you can get a full house, you can get whatever you want. You're not likely going to have the same transportation consideration that a hotel would give you because you're staying in someone's home. And so you probably are going to need to rent a car, or you're going to need to Uber it everywhere that you're going. And so do factor in the nightly cost of that car rental, but also take into consideration what it's going to cost you to park at Disney every day. And you're looking at $30 to $55 if you want to be preferred parking closest to the front of the parking lot every day in order to park. And so you do want to take that into consideration. You also want to factor in what the cleaning fee is going to be. Oftentimes we overlook that with a Vrbo or an Airbnb, and then you get that final bill and it's significantly more expensive than what you thought it was going to be. So take that into consideration.
Now, if your party is going to be bigger than 4 people, although we'll talk about some options for 6 on property, but if you're going to be bigger than 4 people or 6 people, staying off-site and getting a larger home may be more cost efficient, even with the added cost of a rental and parking, etc. So do the math on that, and you may find some way cheaper ways of staying and having a great magical time at Disney World.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's move to on park now.
Yes.
Because this is where things get more complicated. Disneyland had 3 resorts. Now we have Disney World, we have 3 tiers of resorts. And within those tiers, we have multiple resorts because it is such a big property. So we're gonna kind of break down the tiers. We have a value tier, we have a moderate, and we have a deluxe. So why don't we jump into the value tier, and why don't you explain what that is and what kind of resorts are under that moniker?
Yeah, so your value resorts are gonna be exactly as they sound. They're gonna be the friendliest to your wallet, but they're gonna remove some of the amenities that you're gonna get at a like deluxe tier. And so at a value resort, you are going to be seeing the smallest room size of all of the rooms, with a couple of exceptions that we're gonna get there in a moment. You're also gonna see just the decor is gonna kind of reflect the fact that it is value. It's very family friendly. It is very larger than life icons, lots of bright colors. But if you're looking for maybe that elegant stay at a Disney resort, you're not gonna find it at a value resort. You're also gonna have the least amount of dining options within your resort. You're gonna have a food court style, area to eat. It's gonna be good food. We had no problems with it at Pop Century. The food was great, but it is going to be that kind of cafeteria food court style for you. You're not gonna have a sit-down restaurant. And then your pools are gonna be a little bit scaled back. They're still gonna be themed to whatever your resort is, but they're not gonna have hot tubs or water slides or any of that kind of.
Now, among all these tiers, I would say the number one thing to consider is the ease of transportation. Any of these resorts and all the tiers, you're gonna have access to transportation that to and from 25, 30 minutes, buses just going. And you have opportunity, or the Skyliner, or the monorail. So ease of just getting to the parks and getting to where you wanna go on time, so much better. I think that was the biggest thing coming from the Sheraton to the Pop Century that first trip. That was the biggest perk. That's the thing that let me just exhale and breathe a little easier every day as we kind of did that. So let's talk kind of price points when it comes to these value resorts. What are we looking at? What's the scale of pricing there?
Yeah, so your cheapest 3 are going to be the all-star resorts. So you have all-star sports, all-star music, and all-star movies. And they're gonna be running about 117 US, 160 Canadian during a value season. So really, that's not that bad to be able to stay on site, to be able to stay in that bubble, to be able to have the ease of that transportation. And we're going to talk about some more of what the benefits are. Then it's going to go up a little bit for the Pop Century, which is our favorite of the value resorts. And that's going to be $163 US or $223 Canadian. But you had mentioned Skyliner a second ago. It's this gondola system that connects some of the resorts to Epcot and Hollywood Studios, and Pop Century and the Art of Animation are on that Skyliner route. And so that is super helpful. Now the last resort on a value tier, and I don't think it should be value, is the Art of Animation Resort. It is actually just across the bridge from Pop Century. And so the original plan had been that these would be two resorts. What became Art of Animation would be the early 1900s, and then Pop Century would take over. And that didn't happen. But when they built Art of Animation, they priced it so high. So it starts at $267 US or $365 Canadian for a standard room, for the Little Mermaid room.
So we don't understand like why people choose Art of Animation. If you do, if that's kind of your go-to, would you let us in like on
why?
Like, why do you go there? Because you're kind of going into that moderate level pricing, but without the moderate level amenities. And so we just don't quite understand why Art of Animation is even really a thing.
Yes. Now, there is one reason that we understand why Art of Animation is a thing, and that is the family suites. There are family suites. They are also at All Star Music that allow you to sleep up to 6 guests. And so you'll have a bedroom with a queen size bed, but then you'll have 2 kind of Murphy beds, and you have like a kitchen table, and it is a bit easier if you are with a bigger family, but that comes with a pretty steep price tag.
Yeah, at the time of this recording, we're talking $439 US, so about $600 a night Canadian for that 6-person room right now.
Yeah, and if you just think that to get 2 rooms at the All Stars would run you like $320, that is a big discrepancy.
Yeah, you get 2 rooms and you could sleep 8 versus 6 at 600 Canadian. That just doesn't make it still doesn't make sense. You know, we talked about Disney math in a previous episode. The Disney math does not work in this case.
No, we're not fans of it.
So let's switch gears. Let's talk moderate. Now we're going up a level. Some extra amenities. What are we getting with the moderate price tag?
Yeah, so starting with room size, you are gonna get a little bit bigger rooms, which is helpful with a family. Now, starting in that moderate, you do have some 5 sleeper rooms, which are a little bit bigger. They have a single Murphy bed that comes down. And so that's a great option if you are a family of 5 and you don't want to go to a family suite. But on top of that bigger room, you do get more amenities now within your resort itself. So alongside that food court style restaurant, you are now going to have a sit-down table service restaurant that you can enjoy. And your pools are gonna be a little bit better. The theming is gonna be a little bit larger than life. You're gonna have a hot tub, you're gonna have a slide. You're gonna just have a little bit more in terms of the resort itself.
Now this is the tier, the moderate tier, where we have our favorite, our personal favorite resort.
Yes, it is.
And that is?
Coronado Springs. We love Coronado Springs. In fact, if we're giving Art of Animation a hard time for being a value of a moderate price tag, Coronado is the opposite.
Yeah.
Coronado gives you some of the amenities of a deluxe resort at a moderate price tag.
And this is because Coronado Springs is also the conference center of the resorts there. And so because of that attachment, they have different offerings for food and amenities that some of the deluxe resorts have.
Yeah, and the other moderates don't. And so if you're looking particularly, families are gonna enjoy it, but if you're particularly looking at an adults only vacation without the price tag of a deluxe, Coronado is beautiful, it's restful, it has multiple food offerings, it's just,
So we're talking
so
standard rooms about $231 US, that's $315 Canadian. If you stay in the Grand Destino Tower, which is my favorite spot to stay, we're looking at about $359 US per night, $490 Canadian to stay there.
And it is well worth it.
What are the other resorts in the moderate?
Yeah. So you have Caribbean Beach, which again, we talked about that Skyliner with Pop Century and Art of Animation. Caribbean Beach is the only moderate resort that is on that Skyliner route. Now, we just stayed at Caribbean Beach, and I have to say we were underwhelmed.
Yes, and it's also a very large property there.
So big. So big.
And it's kind of really spread out, and so you're walking a lot to kind of get anywhere.
Yes, it was very cool. Like that main lobby area is stunning. Like it is very neat, and the pool is exceptional. It feels like you're in a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, but it is very large, and they are redoing the rooms currently, which is great because they need it.
Yeah, they just needed some updating because it just felt old, like clean and nice, but just like 70s motel vibe old. Like it just kind of needed a little sprucing up for sure.
It did. Now the other moderate resorts are the Port Orleans resorts. So there's Port Orleans Riverside and Port Orleans French Quarter, and they're both themed after New Orleans, and very, very neat. Now there is kind of a plus when you're staying there. Well, first plus is that they have beignets. And if you know, you know, and you should go get beignets. But the other plus is that you are actually allowed to pool swap with those hotels. And that is only done with the Port Orleans resorts and then with Yacht Club, Beach Club, because they actually share a pool. Otherwise, you can only access the pool of the resort you're staying in. And so that's kind of a neat little perk.
Yeah, so we're talking about $257 on the Riverside, and French Quarter, $265. But if you're sharing between those kind of amenities, then I would just go save yourself a few bucks and go Riverside.
Yeah.
So let's move up another tier. Let's spend all of our money because why not? This is Disney, it's worth it, right?
It is.
Let's go to the Deluxe, and let's go Deluxe and DVC. DVC, the Disney Vacation Club. This is like it's sort of like a timeshare for Disney property stuff. But you don't have to be a DVC member to get access to these resorts either. So let's get into it. What are we looking at? Why would you spend the money for a deluxe experience at Disney World?
Yeah. So let's start again at room size. You have the biggest rooms on property if you're staying at a deluxe or DVC resort. Starting with like just your standard room is going to be larger, but you can go all the way up to a 2-bedroom grand villa. And so you can sleep your entire family with a kitchen. It's all there for you. And so on top of that room size, they are going to be the most elegantly themed of the rooms on Disney property. Then the resort amenities itself, you are going to have multiple restaurants. You are going to have, again, still that kind of food court, but just within the resort itself, there are different things that happen. Like we were walking through Grand Floridian and they have a photo pass with Cinderella's slipper. Like they have just some different things. Characters come. They just are spending a little bit more attention on those deluxe resorts.
Now here's something to understand though. These resorts are open to everyone.
Yes, they are.
You know, you can't go to the room, but you can get reservations at all the dining experiences. You can go and walk around all of their lobbies, all of their kind of grand kind of places.
Yeah, they're stunning.
We went to the Grand Floridian. We weren't staying there. We just happened to go there. We were going to go there to have tea, and we ended up seeing some of the amenities they were offering, and we took part in them. So if you want to stay at like the Pop Century, you can also jump on transit, get to these other deluxe resorts, and take advantage of their amenities.
You sure can. And transit is another reason why some people want to be at a deluxe resort. These are the resorts that are going to be closest to the parks, value resorts being the furthest away, but every deluxe resort has multiple ways to get to those parks, whether that is bus and Skyliner or bus and ferry boat or bus and monorail. You're gonna have the easiest time getting to and from the Deluxe Resorts to the parks.
So here's a question, because we have a family of 4. We kind of did that, no, we didn't do that intentionally, but it worked out because really travel is really about 2s or 4s.
Yes.
As soon as you add a 5th or a 6th, it becomes more complicated. So what are some of the options for families of 5 or more? We kind of touched on it, but why don't we just kind of summarize that really quickly?
Yeah, so you have your family suites at All Star Music and at Art of Animation that are gonna be able to sleep up to 6. But then you have your 5 sleeper rooms at some of the moderate resorts. So you're looking at the Port Orleans Riverside as well as the Caribbean Beach for those 5 sleeper rooms. Then you have the cabins at Fort Wilderness, which sleep up to 6, and it's a very cool resort. If you love camping, this might be your resort you want to go.
That's in the deluxe tier.
That's in the deluxe tier, but the prices aren't astronomical to be able to sleep in those cabins. And then you do have those Disney Vacation Club rooms that are going to be able to range all the way from 4 to 8 plus guests, depending on how many bedrooms you have in that grand villa.
So why would you consider then renting? We talked DVC really quick. Why DVC? What would be the perks or the kind of opportunities DVC would offer?
Yeah, so Disney Vacation Club is, if you love Disney and you want to go every year, that might be something you want to look into. But because it is kind of that timeshare model, but with points rather than a specific unit, for families that aren't going to use their points, sometimes what they'll do is they'll just rent those points out, and then people who aren't Disney Vacation Club members are able to utilize those points at specific dates in specific rooms. So you can get a room at one of the deluxe resorts at a fraction of the cost.
So why don't you give us a rough and dirty understanding of the cost then? What are we talking about there?
Okay, so let's take Saratoga Springs, which is a beautiful resort right on the edge of Disney Springs, which is really fun for the nightlife after the parks. So if you were gonna rent that directly from Disney, you're looking at $422 US or 576 Canadian for one night. In order to rent that with Disney Vacation Club points, you would be spending $294 US or 402 Canadian, which is over $100 savings per night for that same room. So there are a couple drawbacks. We would recommend, if you are going to do the DVC point kind of rental, that you go through a reliable source. Now, just like you hear horror stories of verbos of people paying and then showing up and there's not a house there, you don't want that to happen on your Disney vacation. We would recommend that you go through David's Vacation Club rental or the DVC rental store, both of which are very reputable businesses. You know that you're not going to get scammed, and they do have cost calculators right there on their site that anybody can use, so you can kind of do the math for yourself.
Now it's important to note that we are not sponsored in any way, shape, or form, and so this is just us best practices coming at you. But understand that there's going to be no refunds or changes once you lock in those dates and purchase those points. And so you also have to pay up front. So you got to pay in full up front to access those points and those rooms.
Yeah, so just keep in mind that you are not like just getting a vacation room through Disney where it's easy for them to just pass it on to the next person. If you cancel your vacation, somebody has given up their points. So if you can't go on that vacation anymore, you're kind of out of luck. They've already given up their points. They don't get them back, so you don't get to cancel your vacation.
Now, what are the benefits of DVC or Deluxe? There's some added benefits there.
There are. So for on-site, there are some great benefits for everybody at every tier. So we have a few in front of us. We have our refillable resort mugs, which if you're staying at a resort, you can purchase for the length of your stay. And with 2 teenagers, these saved us a fortune.
So the way it works is you purchase the cup, and then any beverages, pop, water, coffee, tea is on the cup. It's got a little RFID chip in it, and then you just self-service and you're good for the duration of your trip.
Yeah, and then your magic bands, you get at a discount for staying on site and ordering them with your room. So those are just a couple little, like, you don't need them.
No, you don't
but
need
they
them.
might make life a little bit easier when you're on vacation. But some things that are super helpful are your extra 30 minutes at the beginning of the day just for resort guests. So every park opens up 30 minutes for those on-site guests. Now, you asked what's the benefit for staying deluxe? You get extra hours at the end of the night. Now again, depending on your stage of life, you might go, I don't want that.
I want to be in bed by 9.
And so maybe that's something to consider, but you do get the extra morning hours for everyone, and you get the extra evening hours just for deluxe guests. Also, if you are staying on site, you have the ability to package your entire vacation together. Your hotel, your tickets, and it's back, your Disney dining plan, which means if you want your Disney resort vacation to feel all-inclusive, you can do that. You can pay everything up front so that you just come and you enjoy your vacation when you're there.
And then of course, Disney transportation. I mean, that is, for me, that is the number one perk. For that, just ease, and number one perk is just being in that internal transportation system. And it just took us so much stress off of comparative to staying off site.
Yeah, you weren't watching your clock all the time.
Yeah.
You just knew if you missed the bus, it's coming back. And then you get access to the individual lightning lanes earlier than off-site guests. And these are kind of those must-book rides. It's Rise of the Resistance, it's Tron, it's Flight of Passage.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind.
My new favorite.
So for all of the guests staying on site, you get to book that individual lightning lane, which is an additional cost, at 7 a.m. For everyone else staying off site, they have to wait till they've actually checked into that park, which means that the availability for those could be gone. And so it is a big perk.
And then finally, early dining reservations. So you have a better chance of getting to that restaurant, that place that you just so want to get, that whatever it is.
Yes.
For us, it's Steakhouse
71.
Yeah.
Oh, that potato brioche bread.
So guys, this is just a framework to help you make your decision on where you're gonna stay at your next Disney World vacation.
But for us, if we had the choice, we are staying on site at Coronado Springs.
Yeah.
We have done both, and for us, the cost savings of staying off-site just isn't worth the added stress and the added complexity. We would much prefer to stay on Disney property.
Yeah, so we just save up a little longer and we make the trip just that much more magical than it was before.
Yeah.
So where are you staying, or where have you stayed? Did you like it? Was this as complicated as we're making it out to be to stay off-site? Or did you stay on property, and what were the benefits? Did you feel it was worth the extra added cost?
Again, we are Maple Mickey. Thank you so much for being here with us. Please give us that like, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend planning their Disney World vacation. We are here to help you put the magic in your next trip.